Welcome. In this presentation, we're going to go over parentheses, what they are and how they work. I'm going to explain parentheses as a solution to a series of problems. Let's start with one of those problems. Some propositional statements involve more than 3 simple sentences, but all of our connectives deal with 1 or 2 sentences. Here's an example. Miguel, Ariana, and Clyde will be at the restaurant. We cannot deal with this sentence just using 1 ampersand. Let me spell that out for you. Propositional statement. Miguel, Ariana, and Clyde will be at the restaurant. M. Miguel will be at the restaurant. A. Ariana will be at the restaurant. C. Clyde will be at the restaurant. The problem here is this. The ampersand can only join 2 things together. It doesn't have a way to connect these 3 things to each other. So here's what some people come up with as a solution. We could just string a bunch of ampersands together, like this. Same sentences with M, ampersand A, ampersand C. That seems to do the trick. And with this one, we kind of got lucky, and that does work. But there's a problem. Sometimes a string of connectives could mean one of 2 things, and we can't tell which one it means just by looking at the string of connectives. If it's just a row of ampersands, no problem. But in other cases, that's not going to work. Let me give you an example. Here's something in formal logic. Dictionary. D. John has a Dalmatian. H. John has a blue tick hound, like Smokey, the mascot for the Volunteers. B. John has a beagle. Translation. D, ampersand, H, wedge, B. Does that work? Right? Or more to the point, what would that mean? If that is our dictionary, what would D, ampersand, H, wedge, B mean? Well, we don't know. Why not? Because it could mean one of 2 things. First, it could mean John either has both a Dalmatian and a blue tick hound, or he has a beagle. So it's possible he's got a beagle. It's possible he has both of the other 2 kinds of dogs. That would fit with D ampersand H wedge B. The problem is, so would this. John has a Dalmatian, and he also has either a blue tick hound or a beagle. Notice this one is definitely affirming he's got a Dalmatian, and it's saying he has one of the other 2. Now notice with the first one, you couldn't say for certain that he had any of the 3 types of dogs. Why? Well, because it gave you an either or. He might have a beagle, he might have both of the others. So we don't know that he has a beagle, we don't know that he has both of the others. We just know it's at least one of those 2 things. The second one definitely says he's got a Dalmatian. And it also says he's got one other dog, a blue tick hound or a beagle. So notice, they both say very different things, but it would make sense to translate both of them with D ampersand H wedge B. Right? The sentences Dalmatian, blue tick hound, and beagle appear in the right order. The and comes before the or. It could be either one, and we don't know which one it means. This is basically what we call an ambiguity. Right? Let's see an example of ambiguity in English. Or rather, let's see how 2 different sentences would translate the same way into formal logic, making the sentence in formal logic ambiguous. Consider the following sentences. You are lying, and you are going to leave right now, or I'm going to punch you. And you're lying, and you're going to leave right now, otherwise I'm going to punch you. To see why these mean very different things, let's talk about the scenarios where you might say one or the other. So the first one. The speaker is so mad at the person for lying that he tells the person to leave before the speaker punches the person. So he makes a statement. You are lying, and you are going to leave right now, or I am going to punch you. So 2 things are true. You're lying, and you're going to leave right now, or I'm going to punch you. Now in the second one, the person claimed he was not going to do something he promised to do. He said, I'm going to stay right here and not do it. And the speaker is hoping then that this is a lie and the person is leaving right now in order to do the thing he promised to do. If not, the speaker is going to punch the person. In that case, the speaker would say, you are lying and you're going to leave right now. Otherwise, I'm going to punch you. So in other words, one of these two things is true. You're lying and you're going to leave right now, or I'm going to punch you. Problem is this. Both sentences will be translated F ampersand L wedge P. We can't tell which one it would be. If we make the dictionary F, you are lying, L, you're going to leave right now, P, I'm going to punch you, either of those would work equally well as F ampersand L wedge P. So if we take one of them and translate it in that way, well, we've got a problem because we've translating it using a sentence that might mean that, but it might mean the other sentence. Let me give another example. Here's one where it's actually ambiguous in English. Quentin is coming or Tina is coming and we will play Settlers of Catan. Now, suppose someone says this is at a board game group. Well, this could mean one of two things. It could mean either Quentin or Tina is coming. Also, we're going to play Settlers of Catan, whichever one comes. Or it could mean at least one of the following things is true. Quentin is going to come, or Tina is going to come and we're going to play Settlers of Catan. Again, let's think of it in terms of scenarios. When might you say the first sentence? Well, suppose I hold up a copy of Settlers of Catan and everyone says, ooh, we want to play Settlers of Catan. That's a fun game. And also, we're very happy because at least one of the two, Quentin or Tina, is coming. And we like Quentin and we like Tina. We'd love it if they both came, but we're happy that at least one is coming. So I say, isn't it great? Quentin or Tina is coming. And either way, we are going to play Settlers of Catan. Or the second scenario, we all want to play Settlers of Catan, but I left my copy at home. We don't have a copy with us. Now we know that at least one of the two is going to show up, Tina or Quentin. And we know if Tina comes, she'll definitely bring her copy. Quentin, maybe, maybe not. So now we say this, well, at least one of the following is true. Quentin is going to come, or Tina is going to come and we're going to play Settlers of Catan. So if Quentin comes, we'll play Carcassonne or some other game that we like. So again, the problem is both of these sentences could be translated Q, wedge, T, ampersand, K. That translation, right, gets all the right sentences and all the right connectives, but it could mean either one of those very different statements. So the solution is parentheses. Parentheses allow us to clarify what is going on in these cases. For example, if we want to say Quentin or Tina is coming, also we're going to play Settlers of Catan, we say parentheses, Q, wedge, T, close parentheses, ampersand, K. That is, we say, hey, both of these things are true. K is definitely true, and it's also the case that one of these other things is true, Q or T. So we say parentheses, Q or T, parentheses Q, wedge T, close parentheses, ampersand, K. If we want to say at least one of the following is true, Quentin is going to come or Tina is going to come and we're going to play Settlers of Catan, we put the parentheses in a different spot. Now we're saying, hey, we've got these two different possibilities, it's one of them. One of them is simply Quentin's going to come, and the other is a combo. Tina is coming and we're going to play Settlers of Catan. So we say Q, wedge, parentheses, T, ampersand, K, close parentheses. By putting the parentheses in a particular spot, we clarify the meaning of the sentence. So in general, what do parentheses mean? They mean that whatever is in the parentheses functions as a unit. Here's a way to think of that. Here's a propositional statement, X ampersand Y. We've got an ampersand. Its truth function is to say that both sentences are true. We've got two simple sentences. So what does it mean? It means both of the following things are true. The simple sentence X, the simple sentence Y. But we can do something else with the ampersand. We could say ampersand, we could say X ampersand parentheses something, 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 close parentheses. Now what would that mean? It would mean both of the following things are true. The simple sentence X and whatever complex statement is in the parentheses. Let me make that more concrete. Suppose we say X ampersand parentheses Y wedge Z close parentheses. Now we're saying both of the following things are true. The simple sentence X and the statement y wedge z. Or to spell that meaning out even further, both of the following things are true. The simple sentence X and either y is true or z is true, possibly both. Right? Remember, that's the meaning of the wedge. So what's the practical purpose here? The practical purpose is this. These complex sentences with parentheses are still there to express truth functions. That is, they tell us something about which sentences in a set of sentences are true or false. In other words, they eliminate certain possible combinations of true and false sentences, and they leave others open. So let's look at an example. Either the Cardinals won tonight or Alice is sad, and Alice is not sad. Dictionary, W, the Cardinals won tonight, S, Alice is sad. Translation, parentheses, W, wedge, S, close parentheses, ampersand, tilde, S. Now, since we've only actually got two simple sentences here, W and S, there's four possibilities out there. W is true and S is true, W is true and S is false, W is false and S is true, W is false and S is false. Now, this is an ampersand. Okay, the sentence as a whole is an ampersand. It's putting two things together. So it's saying that both of them are true. So let's start with the right side. Right? We know that it's saying tilde S. Now, tilde S eliminates any possibility where S is true. So it knocks out W is true and S is true. And it knocks out W is false and S is true. Now, what about W wedge S? Well, that eliminates the possibility that W is false and S is false. So what are we left with? We're left with W is true and S is false. So it's expressing a truth function, but notice it's expressing a truth function that we couldn't have done with just one connective. We needed a more complicated sentence in order to express that truth function. And to do that, we had to use parentheses. So the key point is this. Parentheses allow us to build complex sentences that clearly express one and only one truth function. If we do things right, then there is no doubt about which truth function the sentence expresses. Here's another way to look at it. You can only do so much with connectives and simple sentences. Somebody got the idea that we could use a connective to join a simple sentence with a more complex statement. The connective expresses the same truth function it always did. The only difference is that the two items that it's talking about could be complex statements instead of simple sentences. Now I have to give some warnings. First, this is a formal sentence, so it must follow a rigid set of steps. A complex sentence is not putting three things together. For example, parentheses, A, conditional B, close parentheses, ampersand, parentheses, C, conditional, parentheses, D, wedge, E, close parentheses, close parentheses. It's easier to look at and work with than to say. Now, this is not joining five things together, right? It is not joining A, B, C, D, and E together. It is joining two things together. On one side, parentheses, A, conditional B, close parentheses. On the other side, parentheses, C, conditional, parentheses, D, wedge, E, close parentheses. That's it. One way to think of that is in terms of building up this sentence. Okay. Suppose we started with B. Well, then we put it together with A to get A, conditional B. Right? Now, at this point, we can't add anything to B. B has been absorbed into a unit, A, conditional B, and we can do stuff with A, conditional B, but in a sense, B is gone, or at least it doesn't have an independent function. It now functions as part of that unit. And we put that unit together with C, conditional, parentheses, D, wedge, E, close parentheses. Okay. Put parentheses around both of them, put them together with an ampersand, and we've got a more complex sentence. Or if it's clearer for you, let's look at it in terms of breaking that complex sentence down. That longer sentence has two components. On one side, A, conditional B. On the other side, C, conditional, parentheses, D, wedge, E, close parentheses. Now, each of these has components of its own. On one side, it's A and B. On the other side, it's not C, D, and E. It's C and D wedge E. D wedge E has its own components, D and E. But notice, when you go up to more complex levels, things stop functioning on their own. They start functioning as part of a larger unit. The second warning is this. We are not allowed to do something like this. A ampersand B wedge C conditional D. And you can't just add one set of parentheses and deal with this. You can't say A ampersand parentheses B wedge C conditional D, close parentheses. And you can't say parentheses A ampersand B close parentheses wedge C conditional D. You can't have connectives and sentence letters floating out there like that. Okay? Those are not permissible things in our system, which brings us to a piece of vocabulary. In propositional logic, we only use well-formed formulas. A well-formed formula is one of the following: a simple sentence, two simple sentences joined by a two-place connective, which means ampersand, wedge, connective, or biconditional, the negation of a simple sentence, putting a tilde in front of it, two well-formed formulas joined by a two-place connective, and the negation of a well-formed formula. If you join together two well-formed formulas, you must put parentheses around each of them. If you negate a well-formed formula, you must put parentheses around the whole thing. Implication is this: anything that attempts to join three sentence letters together without parentheses is not a well-formed formula. That is, it is completely meaningless in our system. It's not that it's false, it's that it's neither true nor false. It's like saying the blip, blop, bloops, and blurps. Right? Well, that means nothing. Or to take a classic example from linguistics, the green concept sleeps furiously. And if I say that and someone says, well, that's nonsense, I couldn't say, oh, so you're saying that green sentences don't sleep furiously, or that they sleep calmly. The answer would be no. No, I'm not saying it's true or false. I'm saying it means nothing. In the same way, A ampersand B wedge C ampersand D wedge E with no parentheses in there means nothing. It might as well just be making random sounds. So, if you want to talk about three simple sentences, you must make a statement about one and use a connective to join that statement to the third sentence. And I would add, if you want to talk about two simple sentences and then use one of them 2 or 3 times in different ways, you've also got to use those parentheses. So, bottom line, parentheses allow us to express very complicated truth functions. They also fix things so they have a clear, exact meaning. Well-formed formulas are always one of the following: a simple sentence, the negation of a simple sentence, 2 items joined by a connective, or the negation of a statement in parentheses. Anything else is considered meaningless in our system. That's what I have to say about parentheses. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me by email or come see me in office hours.